Hello everyone, this is Cameron. Second time recording, let's see if we get it right. Let's see, today we'll be talking about the HTML input types, more specifically text area, uh, selection, and options. That way we can create ourselves a nice little front end or view spot to help our users know what information we're wanting in specific ways that are keep your website short and sweet to the point while giving your users lots of options to select different options per se and letting them know that we want to hear their comments too or something of that nature. First things first, let's start with the HTML input types. As we know that you'll be needing to use the input element for a lot of these things. You'll need to know not only the input element HTML tag, but the different type for what you're using. In this particular example, we'll be just focusing on options and selection, as the text area is its own attribute. So moving on, the text area in HTML is its own attribute. You will be using it a text area, give it a name, and make sure it's under the form, as everything's got to be under a form. I'll be demonstrating that shortly. But just so you get a quick look, this is what a text area generally looks like after a bit of styling and CSS. They did the text area. They did it under the form. I generally do mine in the form as it's more streamlined that way, but you can do this outside of it since text area is its own attribute. They did 4 rows, 50 columns, and it looks just like that. They give it a name, and they make sure it's still under the same form, so that way they're connected. But again, you can type in it, etc., so forth, and it's got even a little submit button. Next thing we'll go through is selection. Selection is the HTML element you'll be needing if you're wanting to use options or for your users to select a drop-down menu per se, a traditional drop-down menu. Again, there are different ways to do this. In this particular example, they have the drop-down menu showing your first option that you can select, which would normally be Volvo, but I messed with this earlier. But you can select anyone and then press the submit button and it'll be fine. Notice that it's all within the, this is also outside the form area, but they use the form right here to make sure that it's connected even though it's outside the form. I generally do mine in. Next things next, that the selection allows you to have, again, this little box right here, but it's not popular unless you give it options with values in it. So again, this is the options is more specifically what's inside of it. You have to first do the options, and then you start selecting a value and give it a name. In their example, they do options value Volvo, so that way the backend knows what's being selected. We'll probably get more into backend stuff later, but then you have what the user sees, so they know what to select. But in the backend, we're told, oh, they select the Volvo option, or etc. so forth. Notice how this is all in the form this time. I prefer it this way, but you can't do it outside the form. But doing inside the form, there's a lot less, having to say, oh, this selection goes to this form. A lot less typing, in my opinion. Much easier to do it this way. But notice how since we can select the drop-down menu, it starts with its first option, and you can do it this way with a paragraph explaining why you're selecting, but I'll demonstrate a different way as well. So let's see a working demonstration, shall we? We have our demo page right here with everything under form because we have to start with form. I generally do field set as well, right? As you can see, the field set tag to start off everything. So that way everything's under one field set, or two field sets in this case. So we have our first field set, which tells us that it's going to be its one area for HTML semantics. We've got a legend where they didn't really show this, but the legend will help show a comment. Usually this helps the user understand why they're selecting these groups of options for this thing. It keeps everything organized at least. Since we're doing the input type text area, I've decided to make it a label instead, so that way there's an additional heading on top of that, so that way they know this is for additional information. So since it has the type text area, below or to the left of this, depending on how you style in CSS, as I've got a class to style it, there will be a small little box that's styled as a comment box. That's why we gave it the name comment box for when we submit it. Next, we have below that the how good is this tutorial with a label of class top, so that way it styles under the div, and then the select type, which will be, we have it under currently subject. The value for the options are selected since I don't want them to recognize a value for this. This is more so to demonstrate to the user that I want them to select an option before they even select. These are the three options I want them to select. Hence, so I say there's different ways you can do that. But moving on, let's see how the demonstration works in practice. That's not the demonstration. Here's the demonstration. Da, 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 da. All right, we've got a demo. Comments. You see we had that div right there with the comments, additional information. And we can just type in stuff. Perfect. All right, because that will all be submitted when we hit this button. Now, how good was this tutorial? As for the epicness of this, I'd say it's a Thanos Snap 50% quality. You know, could have been better. But yeah, that's how it all works in practice. Hopefully this helps you better decide what you're going to do for your users and design more dynamic fronts for your view menus. That's all for now, folks. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.